You finally built a life you said you wanted, the one you work nights for, weekends for, the one you promised yourself would make everything easier. And now you're heavier than you've ever been. Welcome back to Iron Suits, where strength wears the crown. I am your host, Marwan Kidu. Today's episode: you didn't lose discipline, you lost pressure. Why CEOs' bodies collapse once life gets easy. You thought getting here would solve this, that success would create space for discipline, that money would buy margin, that control over your schedule meant control over your body. Instead, the opposite happened. The more stable your life became, the more your body fell apart. I look more successful in my LinkedIn photo than I do in the mirror. Nobody says that part out loud. There's a pattern here that nobody talks about. A ceiling most men hit right when they think they've made it. I call it the comfort ceiling. And it doesn't announce itself with chaos or crisis. It arrives quiet, gradual, reasonable. It looks like finally being able to afford good restaurants, like not having to prove anything to anyone anymore, like earning the right to ease up. Here's what actually happens. You spend years in survival mode. High pressure, high stakes, unstable income, unpredictable schedule. Your body adapts. It learns to run on adrenaline, caffeine, and forward motion. It stays lean because you're disciplined. It stays lean not because you're disciplined, but because you're stressed. Cortisol suppresses appetite. Anxiety burns energy. Uncertainty keeps you sharp. You weren't in shape. You were just metabolically activated by instability. Then you win. The business stabilizes, revenue becomes predictable, and the schedule opens up. And your body, which was wired for emergency, suddenly has nothing to fight. This is a part nobody prepares you for. Success removes the environmental pressure that was doing the work for you. You thought your discipline was carrying you. It wasn't. The environment was. Now that environment is gone, and what's left is a nervous system that doesn't know what to do with safety. Let me show you what this looks like in practice. You used to skip meals because you're too busy to eat. Now you eat because there's nothing urgent stopping you. You used to move constantly because work demanded it. Now you sit in back-to-back calls because that's what leverage looks like. You used to sleep poorly because you were anxious. Now you sleep poorly because you're bored. The body you had before wasn't built by effort, wasn't built. It was built by necessity. And the body you have now isn't the result of laziness. It's the result of safety. Here's the shift that breaks most men. In survival mode, your body is a tool, a vehicle, something you use to get through the day. You don't think about it. You just run it hard and assume it will keep up. And it does for years. Then you arrive. You make it. The pressure drops. And suddenly your body stops being a tool and starts being a responsibility. something you have to manage, maintain, pay attention to. But you don't know how to do that because the skill that built your business has nothing to do with the skill set required to build your body once that chaos is gone. Most men misread this moment. They think that problem is that they got soft, that they lost their edge, that success made them weak. So they try to recreate the old pressure. They sign up for a brutal program. They hire a trainer who yells. They commit to 5 a.m. workouts and restrictive diets. They try to out-discipline the problem. And it works. 3 weeks, maybe 6. Then it collapses. Not because they're weak, but because they're solving the wrong variable. The old pressure worked because it was external. The market didn't care how you felt. The competition didn't wait for you to be ready. The bills didn't negotiate. You didn't need discipline. You didn't need discipline. You needed survival. But now the pressure has come from you, has to come from you. And that's a completely different skill. Here's what you're actually dealing with. You've built a life where almost nothing is urgent. Your income is stable. Your team runs without you. Your calendar has white space. For the first time in years, you have margin. And margin is supposed to be the thing that makes fitness easy. Except it doesn't. Because margin also removes consequence. If you skip a workout, nothing breaks. If you eat poorly for a week, no client leaves. If you sleep in, the business still runs. There's no immediate feedback loop. No punishment, no reward, no external forcing function. Just you and a decision that only matters in 6 months. Maybe I only looked good when I was broke and desperate. You won't say it, but you've thought it. And your brain, which spent a decade optimizing for short-term survival, has no idea what to do with that. It doesn't register delayed consequence as real consequence. It doesn't treat future benefit as urgent. So it defaults to comfort, not because you're lazy, but because comfort is now available. And for the first time in your life, nothing is stopping you from taking it. This is the comfort ceiling, the point where your environment stops doing the work, where safety becomes a thing you have to manage, not chaos, where the absence of pressure becomes the pressure. Most men never see this coming. They assume that once they have time, they'll have discipline. Once they have money, they'll have energy. Once they have control, they'll have results. But control doesn't create discipline. It just exposes whether you actually have any. Here's the internal dialogue most men won't say out loud. I built this entire business from nothing. I can't even get myself to the gym 3 times a week. I manage a team of 30 people. I can't even manage my own eating. I've closed 8-figure deals. I can't close the gap between where I am and where I want to be. It feels like failure, not business failure. You're past that. Personal failure. The kind that makes you wonder if the competence you built your life on was just circumstantial. And the worst part, you can't talk about it because to everyone else, you have it all: the business, the income, the freedom. And complaining about your body feels like complaining about being rich. So you stay quiet. You let it compound. What if my wife is just being polite when she says it doesn't matter? That one keeps you up sometimes. And eventually, the gap between who you are in business and who you are physically becomes so wide that it starts to feel permanent. Here's what's actually happening: you're not broken, you're just optimized for the wrong environment. Your entire operating system was built for scarcity, urgency, and external validation. And now you're in an environment of abundance, autonomy, and delayed feedback. The skills don't transfer. The discipline you used to build your business was reactive. You worked hard because you had to, because someone was watching, because failure was expensive. But now, no one is watching. Failure is private, and the stakes are long term. That requires a different kind of discipline, one that doesn't wait for pressure, one that creates its own. This is where most men get stuck. They keep trying to import the old strategies into the new environment. They try to manufacture urgency, stimulate scarcity, recreate external accountability. And it feels hollow because deep down, they know it's fake. The trainer isn't really going to fire you. The program isn't really mandatory. The deadline is imaginary. And your nervous system knows the difference between real pressure and performed pressure. So what actually works? Not motivation, not willpower, not another program. What works is accepting this is a different game. That the body you want now requires a system, not a sprint. That you're not fighting chaos anymore. You're building instability. And building instability requires precision, consistency, attention to variables that don't announce themselves. You don't need more effort. You need better architecture. The kind that doesn't rely on adrenaline or emergency, or someone else setting the deadline. The kind that operates in white space, in margin, in the absence of urgency. Because the truth most men don't want to hear. Here's the truth that most men don't want to hear. The body you want is boring to build. It's not dramatic. It's not heroic. It doesn't make for a good story. It's the same decisions repeated in an environment where nothing forces you to make them. That's it. And if you're someone who's built a business by outworking the competition, by grinding harder, by sheer force of will, that's going to feel like a weakness. It's going to feel like you're doing less, like you're not trying hard enough. But that's a trap. Trying harder in a stable environment just burns you out faster. What you actually need is to try differently. The comfort ceiling isn't about effort. It's about learning to build without urgency, to show up without consequence, to care about something that no one else is measuring. And that might be the hardest thing you've ever done, not because it's physically difficult, but because it requires you to be disciplined in a way no one will ever see. No applause, no external validation, no immediate proof it's working. Just you and the version of yourself 6 months from now. I've proven I can build something. I haven't proven I can maintain anything. That's the one that lands hardest. That's the ceiling. Not what you can't do, what you're willing to do quietly. And until you're willing to build in silence, in stability, in the absence of pressure, you'll keep hitting it over and over. Not because you're not capable, but because you're still waiting for the environment to do the work. And it won't. Not anymore. Most men think success is a reward. They don't realize it's the environment that exposes them. The moment life gets easy, the body tells the truth. Not about your work ethic, about your standards. Standards don't come from pressure. They come from identity. That's what we build here. This is Iron Suits, where success isn't the finish line, it's a test. If this episode landed, it's because you're already feeling it. Next time, we go deeper. Not why your body changed, why high performers stop respecting themselves physically once the chase is over. Because once urgency disappears, identity is the only thing left driving behavior. I'll see you there. And if this episode was helpful, make sure you share it with another leader who's very comfortable. As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. That's how we spread the message. Make sure you leave me a review on iTunes, positive or negative. Tell me how awesome I am or how shit you think my podcast is. I don't care. I'd love to hear from you. Follow me on my socials. I am on facebook.com, Marwan Kilo, and Marwan Kilo Fitness on LinkedIn. Or you can even watch this podcast on YouTube under Marwan Kilo. Right. Until next time, have a great day. And I'll see you next time.